Hello, running team. We are officially a team now. We've made it to week 4 together. So I think that we can consider ourselves teammates in this effort to get through the coronavirus, to get through the 6-week program. So we got a lot of really good feedback. We keep getting more and more feedback after each week. A couple elements of feedback that we got after week 3 that has allowed us to kind of inform how we want to create week 4. One was, wow, this is progressing very quickly. This was pretty easy, and then week 2 got harder, week 3 got substantially harder, and now in week 4, some of you are probably scared that it's going to continue to get even harder. So one thing that a lot of people have told us that they're doing, which is a great idea, we wish we would have thought of this before we started week 1 to give you in the introduction, is that some people are doing week 1 for 2, 3, even 4 weeks. We have a couple people who have said that they're going to stretch this out over a 6-month program, and they're going to do each week over the course of 1 month. That's a great idea. Based on your fitness level, based on how committed you are to the program, that is totally reasonable to do. So if you want to do week 1 for 1 or 2 weeks, week 2 for 1 or 2 weeks, if you're at week 3 and you feel like, wow, this is really ramped up fast and you're not ready for week 4, then stop the video, stay with week 3 for another week or 2 until you feel like your body's ready to make some progressions, and then meet us in week 4. All of these videos are going to be living on the PACE network for years. So they're not going away, so space this out as much as you need to feel like you're challenging yourself, making adaptation. Adding some challenge, making the adaptation. Adding more challenge and adding some strength, making the adaptation. So go at your own speed, listen to your body, and just because these are called week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, doesn't mean that you only have a week to get it in. Spread it out. That was a great idea. Thanks for those suggestions from those who told us that they're doing that. Another piece of feedback is that, wow, the core work is really, really challenging. And core work is a lot of times challenging for a couple of reasons. One, normally we don't do enough of it. It's not that fun, it's not that sexy, it's pretty boring, so it's easy to neglect. So we have kind of ramped up the core and the hip strength relatively quickly. We've been asked by a large number of people to give some modifications to some of the core work that we're doing. So what we did today is that we're doing the same hip and core work that we did in week 3. We're going to do it in week 4, but we're going to show you some regressions. So we don't always need to progress exercises. Sometimes we do something that's a little bit too challenging, so we need to make a regression. We need to make it a little bit simpler. So we're going to go through the same hip and core strength series in week 4 that we did in week 3, but we are going to show you some regressions, and I'll talk about that here in a second. The last piece of feedback that we got from quite a few people is that I'd really like to do a little bit more foot strength and foot flexibility, which is a great recommendation. I think that we hit that maybe in week 1, and then we didn't hit it much in week 2 or week 3. So after the dynamic flexibility work today, we're going to go straight into about an 8-minute foot strength and flexibility program so that you have that as an option to continue to do throughout the rest of the workout or throughout the rest of the program, or just to have in your back pocket to do on a consistent basis. All right, so the structure of week 4. And again, we're still in the foundation plus strength phase. Week 5, we're going to start to add a little bit of power. So week 4 is going to look similar to week 3, similar to how week 1 and week 2 looked fairly similar. So in week 4, we're going to do a dynamic warm-up. What we have done is we have taken some of the work from the dynamic warm-up in week 1 and 2. We've taken some of the stuff from the new dynamic warm-up that we did in week 3. And then we're going to add a few kind of ballistic, more plyometric-based exercises at the end, which is going to help us get our heart rate up a little bit higher. It's going to help us get our respiratory rate up a little bit higher. It's going to increase our core temperature a little bit, which is going to get us ready to kind of go into the next elements of the lift. So that's going to be our dynamic flexibility routine today. We're then going to go into that foot strength and flexibility segment, which is going to be about 8 minutes. There's probably 8 different exercises, some flexibility, some strength. So that'll be about 8 minutes. And then we go into the core and hip strength segment. And as I said, it's the same thing that we did in week 3, but in week 4, we're going to do some regressions. And here's the cool thing. We have a guest superstar with us today. Her name is Konstanze Klosterhalfen. I have a hard time saying her name. She's German. She has about 8 German national records, and she has 1 European national record, European record, and she just won the bronze medal in the 5K in the World Championships last year. She is an absolute superstar. She's one of my athletes that I've been working with for several years. So she is going to be doing all of the hip and core strength that we did last week, and she's going to do it in the advanced version like we taught last week. Lindsay is going to be doing the regression version of most of the exercises. So for you that feel like you need to take a step back, but you still want to get in the workload and the volume, Lindsay's going to be the person to watch. For you that felt like week 3 was challenging, but you're ready for it, you're going to keep your eyes on Coco. Coco is a shortened abbreviation of Konstanze Klosterhalfen. Easier for me to say with my American tongue. So Coco's with us, which is going to be really cool for everybody. And then we're going to go into the balance and functional component. And we're going to take some of the things that we've done in week 1, week 2, and week 3. We're going to bring them over into week 4. We're going to increase the speed of some of the exercises. We're going to increase the complexity of some of the exercises so that we increase the challenge. And then we're going to go into our strength phase, or into our strength section, which is going to look similar to what we did in week 3, but we've added a little bit more flavor and a little bit more volume to the strength work that we do in week 4. So we're having a really good time. It sounds like you guys are having a really good time. We still get a lot of really good feedback. We're going to keep rolling with this. After week 4, give us more feedback. Send us information through the PACE network. Send us questions. Send us suggestions, concerns, whatever you have. And we'll continue to adapt the program based on what you're telling us. So be an active participant. That allows us to be better to get you what you need as we go into week 5 and ultimately into week 6. All right, here we go. All right, rolling. All right, here we go. Dynamic flexibility. So we're going to do a combination of what we did in week 1 and 2 and what we did in week 3. And then we're going to add a couple more things that are a little bit more plyometric, ballistic, get the heart rate up a little bit higher and get your your core temperature up a little bit higher. So first thing we're going to do is knee to chest, 20 seconds. Grab the knee, bring it to your chest. This should be fairly familiar. Are you keeping the 20 seconds?
I am now.
She's doing it now. So knee to chest, she's staying up nice and tall. She's making sure that she's not bringing her shoulders down to her knees. She's not pulling so hard that she leans back. From here up, stays nice and stable, nice and solid. Knees are coming up to the chest. She's staying nice and tall. She's staying nice and straight through that planted leg. And then we're going into heel to butt. So grabbing the heel, pull it to the butt. Grabbing the heel, pull it to the butt. Making sure that we're not pulling so hard that we're rotating our pelvis and arching our back. So the pelvis has to stay nice and stable, which means the core has to stay engaged a little bit. Make sure that you're breathing. Make sure that your shoulders are back. Chest is open. Gonna work for 20 seconds. And now we're doing crossover in touch. And then coming up, crossover touch. So we're doing these for 20 seconds as well. There'll be some during this series that we're going to do for repetitions, but for these we're going to do for seconds today. So 20 seconds, breathing, getting a nice stretch, keeping it rhythmic, keeping it dynamic, not holding any position for too long. You can hold the end position for a second or so, but you want to keep things moving and rolling. We don't want any breaks in between exercises because, as I said, we're trying to get our temperature up a little bit. We're trying to get our just our body warm and ready to roll. So now we're going to grab our rope or our dog leash, and we're going to go into the 3-way hamstring stretch. We're doing these 10 times. Hold on, we might have to make sure the audience has time to get their leash.
Leash?
Give us your dad joke. Give us a dad joke.
Okay, dad joke. This one, shout out to Chris Ramsey. He's one of our PTs here. So a photon walks into a hotel and is ready to check in, and the person helping him is like, can I help you bring your bags up to your room? Do you need any help getting up to your room? And the photon's like, no, I'm traveling light.
All right.
It's a crowd pleaser.
If you don't understand the joke, it's probably not funny
science.
Regardless.
It's science.
All right, 3-way hamstring stretch. So we have the leash around the foot, and this first one we're keeping in a direct plane. We're going to do a set of 10. So we're pulling the rope, stretching the hamstring, getting a moderate stretch, coming straight back out of it. We're going to do a set of 10 of these on each side, keeping it rhythmic, making sure that we're breathing. And after we do a set of 10, we're going to switch legs. And if you're becoming more familiar with this exercise, because you've done it several times last week, most likely, you can start to increase the speed a little bit. Don't increase the amount of tension, but you can start to increase the speed a little bit. And 9, and we have one more. So now we're going to go to the other leg, wrap the leash or the rope around the foot, and now we're going to wrap around the inside of the leg. Or we can do the outside first, that's fine.
Yeah.
So Lindsay's going for the outside of the leg, which means that as she pulls, the toes are going to rotate out. So she's going to track that toe, and her leg's going to come out to the side a little bit. This is going to stretch slightly different fibers in the hamstrings. and maybe the adductors a little bit. So we're going to do a set of 10 of these, same rhythm, same dynamic fashion. And then we're going to switch legs and wrap it around the outside again. And 110 on this side, pulling, and make sure that when you pull, allow your leg to rotate a little bit. So don't maintain tension within your leg to prevent it from rotating. The reason that we're wrapping the leg, that was a nice one. The reason that we're wrapping the rope around is actually get a little bit of rotation to change the length tension relationships of some of the hamstrings. So allow that leg to rotate a little bit. We're going to come back to the other side after we do 10, and we're going to wrap it around the inside of the shin this time, and then it comes around to the outside. So now as she pulls, it's going to create a little bit of an internal rotation of that femur. She's going to continue to track that toe, so now she's coming over midline a little bit. You might feel this a little bit more in the lateral side of the hamstrings. I'm going to do a set of 10, allowing that leg to rotate as she pulls. And we'll go to the other side, wrapping around the inside to the outside. Pull, rotate, rhythmic and dynamic. Set of 10. When you're doing these on your own, if you would prefer to go for time and not repetitions, that's fine. You can do these for 20 seconds. That'll get you roughly 10, maybe a little bit more. We're just going to kind of toggle back and forth between repetitions and time. Either is fine. And next is going to be glute drops. So we bring the rope back over to the other leg, or we can stay on this leg. That's fine. So this time we're going to come up like we did in the initial one, but then we're dropping the leg all the way down towards the ground, coming back up and back down. We're going to do a set of 10 of these. As we start to drop that leg down, we'll probably start to feel a little bit of a stretch in the back of the hip, maybe in the IT band on the lateral side of the leg. Might feel a stretch down in your lower back. That's all okay. Make sure that what you're feeling is stretching and lengthening and not pain or jamming. So just kind of gauge what's going on in your body. Make sure that we're getting good stretch, moderate stretch, nothing massive. That's not the intent of a dynamic warm-up. Make sure it feels good in your body. Make sure that you're breathing. Going a set of 10, and you're going to definitely be feeling a hip stretch in the hamstring as well. So if you're concerned that you feel a stretch in the hamstring, even though we're calling this a glute drop, it's totally fine. We're actually stretching quite a few tissues here in this exercise. We're getting the hamstrings, we're getting the IT band, we're getting the hamstrings, we're getting the IT bands, we're getting the glutes, we're getting the low back. So this one kind of gets a lot of things. And that's why we tend to piece this one closer to the end of the dynamic flexibility routine. Looks like this right hamstring's a little bit tighter. Something's tighter on this right side today. So for her, if she wanted to spend a little bit more time on this right side and change it from 10 reps to 15 reps, I think that's okay. Because if we can identify tightness that's asymmetric, then we want to spend a little bit more time to try to bring that back up to normal. So get a sense of what's going on in your body, and if you need to spend more time on one side, go for it. And now we're going to do hip swivels, so we don't need the rope anymore. You can toss that to the side, give it back to your dog or your cat or your pet pig. I don't know what you have. So we're going to do this for 20 seconds. Are you keeping time?
Yeah.
So Lindsay's going to keep track of 20 seconds. So these are those knee drop-ins. We're going to call them hip swivels. And we're going to do 2 different variations today. So here we're just going in towards midline, making sure that the feet are wide, the knees are wide, dropping in towards midline. And then after 20 seconds, we're going to sit up. We're going to be sitting back on our hands. Our feet are going to be wide. And once we drop one knee in, we're going to spin over that leg. So go ahead and come to the other side. So she is bringing her right shoulder down to her left knee. And that should introduce a stretch in the back of the right hip in this case. And then when she swivels back and she comes over the left leg, she should be getting a stretch in the back of the left hip. So we're going to do this for about 20 seconds as well. Make sure you're getting a stretch in the back of the hip and not a jamming in the front of the hip. And 20 seconds. Next is going to be quad pull. So we're on our side. This is one that we did in week 1 and week 2, and maybe week 3 actually. So the bottom leg is flexed up, top leg is holding on to the top of the foot or the ankle, the shin, and keeping the heel to the butt, driving that top knee behind you a little bit, trying to get a stretch through the front of the quad. This looks a little bit better today in Lindsay than it did the last 3 weeks. So I think that she's been working on some of this stuff. Actually, I've been watching her work on some of this stuff over the last week because I've been ridiculing her in front of our
audience,
our international audience. So she's going to try to impress you today. We'll see if she does. We're just starting out. We have a long way to go. So we're doing this for a set of 10. Are we doing this for 10 or 20 seconds?
10.
10. So we're doing sets of 10. You can do either 10 or 20 seconds. So now the left quad looks tighter. So it looks like she's been stretching the right quad and she's letting the left quad go. Well, that's an embarrassment.
Can't stay even.
So she just can't stay even. So we're gonna do a set of 10 and the knee's kind of flying away. So make sure that that leg stays parallel to the ground. So don't let the knee fly up and away. The left leg needed some attention. So now that one's looking like it's kind of lagging behind. All right, next we have the side rollback. So we're gonna be on our side. Working on spine rotation. So the knees are nice and high. Pelvis stays forward. And we're rotating. This looks pretty good. She's getting better at this one.
That's the only compliment I'll get today.
That's it. She only gets one per
and
day,
done.
and that's it.
One and done.
So she's keeping that pelvis forward. She's rotating back, getting a good stretch through her low back, maybe also through her pec. We're gonna do this for a set of 10 as well. And what you can do if you feel like you're getting quite a bit of range of motion, go ahead and switch to the other side. I'll show you how you can progress this a little bit. So what we can do, instead of having the legs stacked, we can drop the bottom leg a little bit and have the top leg on the ground. And this is just going to pull the pelvis forward a little bit more. And to create a little bit more of a stretch through the low back and maybe through the chest. And we're going to do a set of 10 of these. And she's going to make sure that she's breathing. And then we're going to stand up. And we have our slide or stretch. So Lindsay's going to use a towel on a slippery surface. She's going to keep her shoes on. She could also take her shoes off if she wanted to and just use her socks to slide. We're going to do a set of 5 of these, and we're going to do both the reaching up and the rotating. So we're going to reach up, nope, fail, slide back. So we're going to hold that position. We're going to reach up, and then you're going to come back down and rotate. So don't slide forward, rotate. There we go.
Okay.
We're going to add them together. That's 1. We're doing a set of 5. So slide, reach, rotate. Come back up. That's 2. Slide, reach, rotate. And let's hold just a little bit longer in the reach and the rotation. Hold and then rotate. Hold. Good. What number was that?
4.
4. We have 1 more. Slide, reach, and rotate. And then we're going to switch legs. And making sure that when we slide back that we're getting the length through the front of the hip and we're not getting a lot of arch through the back. We can get a little bit of an arch, but we really want to think about keeping that pelvis in a little bit of an anterior rotated position. Reach and rotate. So this time she's going to come back and really let yourself sag. So show them what not to do. So that's what we don't want. We have all this motion coming from her back now. We really want her to try to stabilize her spine, stabilize her core, get the extension from the hip. Reach and rotate. That's 2. Reach and rotate. Make sure when you rotate, you're trying to get as much length in between your fingertips as you can. Good work. And good. One more. And now we're going to get into a down dog position and we're going to cycle out our calves. So we'll do this for about 20 seconds. Lindsay, you can keep our time.
Yeah.
So it's just pedaling back and forth, driving the heel into the ground. This is going to lengthen the calf. It could also lengthen the hamstring a little bit. You might feel tension all the way up into the glute. So we're just going to cycle back and forth. You can bounce a couple times on one side. You can bounce a couple times on the other side. If one calf feels tighter than the other, then spend a little bit more time trying to stretch that guy. And we're going to stand up. So now we're going to do some things that are a little bit more dynamic and ballistic. So we're going to do pogo jumps. So we're going to do 20 seconds. The first 10 seconds, we're going to stay just kind of a little bit low. And then after 10 seconds, Lindsay will tell us, and she's going to jump just a little bit higher. We're not trying to get maximum height. So we're going to go from like low hops to just moderate hops. So she's going into the moderate hops, and you're going to feel this kind of through the calves, through the Achilles. If you start to feel any soreness through the Achilles or through the bottom of your feet, then lessen the amplitude or just stop the exercise altogether. We want you to feel good challenge, but not any irritation or pain. Next is going to be high knees. So let's face, So this is going to be kind of, no, high knees, not butt knees, that's next.
Next.
High knees. So knees are coming up high, arms are pumping in unison, trying to keep the torso nice and tall. You're trying to stay nice and tall. We're going to do this for 30 seconds. We're trying to land on kind of our midfoot or our forefoot. We don't want to land back on our heel. We want to feel kind of poppy and elastic. You're going to feel like your heart rate's getting up. You're going to feel like your breathing rate's getting up. We're doing that for 20 seconds. Then we're going to go into the butt kickers. So heel to butt, trying to get our arms swinging in unison. And again, we're trying to land on our forefoot and our midfoot. We don't want to land on our heels. We should feel kind of poppy and elastic. Heart rate's coming up. Your respiratory rate, your breath rate is coming up. You might be sweating at this point. That's all good. That's the intention of what we're trying to accomplish here. And what is next?
Dino kicks.
Dino kicks, so dino walks. So this one we'll do this for 30 seconds because this one's a little bit more complicated. So you're gonna kick one leg up and then you're gonna hinge down, try to keep the knee relatively straight to touch the toe on the other leg. So with this, you're gonna get a stretch in the hamstring of the leg that flies up, and then you're gonna get a stretch in the hamstring of the leg that is anchored. So we're stretching both hamstrings. One is in what we call an open chain position, and then the other is in a closed chain position because the foot's on the ground. So we want the kick to be a little bit ballistic, but don't kick so hard that you strain the hamstring, obviously. So a nice kick forward, and then that leg is gonna swing back, and you're gonna reach down towards the toe, maintaining balance, maintaining your proprioception. Do this one for 30 seconds, and then we're gonna be done with a dynamic warm-up. Oh, and she's starting to lose it. We can tell that she's starting to breathe a little bit heavier.
Good.
Good, 30 seconds, great job. All right, so we've had a request from several people, quite a few people actually, to integrate some more foot strength. We did that in week 1. We didn't really touch it much in week 2 and week 3, so we're gonna do an entire foot strength and flexibility series today. So the first thing we're gonna do is we are going to use as much space as we can. We have maybe, what do you think that is? 15 feet?
Yeah.
About 15 feet. So we're going to use as much of it as we can. If we don't have a lot of space, we can just do all of this in kind of a smaller area. So we're going to do toe walks. We're going to do a set of 20, or for 20 seconds. Lindsay's going to keep track.
Yeah.
So we're just up on our toes, and we're just walking. And then as soon as we get to the end of our space, then we're going to turn and we're going to keep walking. So we want to keep the heels up off the ground. We don't want to keep the heels as high as possible. We want the heels to be hovering off the ground a little bit, but not as high as possible. You're going to feel this through the calves. You're going to feel this through the bottom of your feet. Make sure that you keep your body nice and upright. So don't stick your butt out to get your heels up off the ground. Keep everything lined up and stacked. And that's 20 seconds. Then we're going to go to heel walks. So now the toes are up off the ground. We're on our heels. Kind of look like a waddling duck when you do this because you take your ankle joint out of the equation. So same idea, stay up nice and tall. It's easy when you do the toe lifts to stick your butt out. Try to keep your butt up underneath you. And we're going to do this for 20 seconds. You'll feel this effort through the front of your shins, a muscle called the tibialis anterior primarily. And after 20 seconds, now we're going to go heel to toe. So we're going to be very intentional about rocking from the heel onto the toe. We're coming up into a running position. We're trying to balance just for 1 second in that elevated heel position in your running position. So heel, toe, driving up, pause, heel, toe, driving up, pause. Trying to get that knee nice and high. Put that hot cup of coffee right there so it doesn't spill. Try to stay nice and stable. It's going to be really challenging to balance in this heel elevated position, in the running position, so you might only be able to hit it for a second before you fall forward. You're not going to be able to hold it for a long time. That's okay. We're going to do a set of 20. Trying to get nice and tall at the top of our running mechanics. And Lindsay's keeping track of our 20 seconds. And we're going to need our band, so hopefully your bands are close. So we're going to use a band that has maybe moderate to light resistance. And Lindsay is going to put those around the front of her feet, so they're not around her toes, but they're kind of up around that kind of that lateral knuckle or that medial knuckle of your big toe. So she's going to start at one end of the room, and she's going to be in a squatted position. She's going to lift the foot up on the right side, so the heel is down, so that she can swivel around the heel. And she's really trying to isolate this. She's going to do a set of 20, just like you, so count as I give you some instructions. So she's trying to keep her femur nice and stable. She's trying to get all of that motion from the ankle joint. it's easy to cheat and really spin from the hip. This is making it a hip exercise. We're trying to isolate the hip. We're trying to stabilize the hip and isolate the ankle. So after she does 20, and she's going to feel this along the outside of the shin here, in the couple of muscles called the peroneus longus and brevis. So after 20, she's going to do side steps. So she's going to try to do about 20 side steps, or however much space she has, until we get to the other side of the room. You're going to feel this in the glutes. You'll continue to feel this in the outside of that shin because it's already fatigued, and now we're having to maintain some strength as we reach out to our side. And then once she gets to the other end, come this way a little bit in case you're out of the screen, okay? So now we're gonna do the other side. So we stay in that squatted position, keep the load through your system, and try not to spin through the leg, trying to keep the leg nice and stable, really working through the ankle joint. You're not gonna have a lot of motion here. So if you feel like it's really stiff and you don't have a lot of motion, then you're probably doing it correctly. We don't have a lot of motion in this position, but we really wanna make sure that we maintain strength in this lateral ankle complex. So she's going to do a set of 20. Then she's going to do another set of the side steps all the way to the other end of the room. And if she doesn't have a lot of space, what she can do is she can just kind of stay in space and do a side step, side step, side step, side step, and just go back and forth. That's totally okay. It's totally appropriate. So then she'll get to 20. So then she's going to need to find something to anchor the band. This one might take a little bit of time to figure out. So we're going to use me as an anchor. So this could be like the leg of a coffee table. So this just needs to be stationary. The band is around the front of her foot, just like it was for the other exercise. She's going to be in the same position, and now she's going to work swooping the foot in towards midline. This is strengthening a muscle called the tibialis posterior, which runs right along the medial side of the shin. She's going to do a set of 20, making sure that she's trying to isolate that rotation so she's not rotating through the leg, and she's really inverting through the foot. She's going to do a set of 20, and then she's just going to take a step in and out, in and out. So that right foot can stay stationary. She's just bringing her foot in. That's going to maintain some strength in the tibialis posterior as she comes in towards her midline. She's going to start to feel some work done in her adductors, kind of the muscles in the groin. She'll do a set of 20 of these step-ins. And then we're going to switch. So I'm going to anchor. She's going to position it around the front of her foot, just below that medial knuckle of the big toe. And she'll do another set of 20. Really trying to maintain strength both as you bring it in, but also maintain control as it comes back out. Don't let the band slingshot your foot back into the start position like that. So we really want to maintain strength and control in both directions. Maintaining strength as you lengthen a muscle is called eccentric strength, and it's imperative, especially for this tibialis posterior muscle, to have that neuromuscular competency. So control it in, control it out, set of 20, and then a set of 20 of these step-ins. Maintaining that isometric strength in the tibialis posterior, adding a little bit of adductor strength. Do a set of 20 of these. And if you are somebody who has a history of plantar fascia issues, Achilles issues, any like lower leg, tibialis posterior tendonitis, shin splints, this might be something that you want to do 3, 4, 5 times a week. Just this small cluster of exercises might take you 10 minutes to get through, probably less than that once you get familiar with it and you can roll through it. So that's 20. So now Lindsay's going to go to the wall or to a banister, anything that just gives her a little bit of support. And she's going to do heel lifts. We're going to do a set of 20 straight leg heel lifts on each side. So we're going to start here. Coming up and down with control. Similar as we come down, we don't want to just drop against gravity. If you want to resist gravity, come down with a little bit of control. Come up with control. She's going to do a set of 20 on the left. Then she's going to switch and do a set of 20 on the right. Trying to maintain a similar cadence. As you get deeper into the set, the tendency for people who have weakness is not to get the heel as high or to start to slow down. So once you kind of get familiar with the cadence that you're working in, try to maintain that cadence and try to maintain the same heel height through the entire set of 20. She's working to 20, you can work to 30 if you want, if you have that kind of strength endurance. Then she's going to squat down, so she's going to have the knee bent on the standing leg. She's going to do another set of 20. So this is disadvantaging the muscles called the gastrocnemius, the medial and the lateral gastroc, and it's putting more of the load into the soleus muscle, which has a slightly different origin. So when you bend the knee, it just makes that one work a little bit harder. We're starting to see from a lot of emerging research and in our biomechanics lab that weakness in the soleus can create a lot of injury predisposition for the Achilles and the plantar fascia. So we need to get the soleus strong and do some bent knee heel lifts and not only straight knee heel lifts. So after she does a set of 20, she is going to turn, she's going to lean against the wall, and now she's going to balance on one leg, and she's going to lift the toe up off the ground. So just toe raises. So the heel stays on the ground, lifting the toe up off the ground. She's going to do a set of 15 of these. If you've never done these, they're going to feel particularly challenging. This is challenging a muscle in the front of the shin called the tibialis anterior. Primarily, there's a couple of other muscles that can help drive this motion, but primarily the tibialis anterior is responsible for this dorsiflexion motion. She'll do a set of 15 on each side. 15. So that's the end of the foot series. When you're done, you need to strike a pose. Show us a good pose. There you go. So strike your pose and we'll move on to the next thing. All right, here we go. We're going to do hips and core today. And we have our lovely assistant, Coco, who's going to help us out. Coco's going to be doing the version that we worked on last week. And Lindsay is going to work on some modifications. That's one of the requests that we have been given is what can we do if the particular exercise is a little bit too challenging. So Lindsay's going to go through some modifications as we go through the series. First thing, side plank clamshell. So let's grab the band, get it around the knees. We'll get in our side plank position. Lindsay's going to keep track of the time as she normally does. We're going to go for 30 seconds. So we're going to be on our side and let's go. So no modification here. Lindsay's been given the task to come up with a modification, so she's not come up with a modification for this one.
No.
I guess the modification would be just going from a sideline position. So we're going to go for 30 seconds. Make sure that you keep that pelvis forward. Don't let the pelvis roll back. Get those knees nice and high. Make sure you pause at the top a little bit, just like Coco should be doing. I think she's doing it. We'll try not to shame Coco in front of the audience, but we will shame Lindsay all day. 30 seconds, and let's switch and do the other side. Feet together, knees coming apart. Coco's holding on to her pelvis to make sure it stays forward because we don't want that pelvis to swing open. Lindsay's doing the harder version. The easier version would be coming down onto the shoulder, just like she did on the other side. And if you feel like you want to do half of the 30 seconds hard and then do half of the 30 seconds with the modified version, it's totally fine. It's up to you. Lindsay's keeping track of our time.
5 seconds.
5 more seconds until we switch. And we're going to take about a 10-second break in between each of these just to give you a little bit of recovery, but not a lot. Next one is going to be side plank reverse clamshell. So we're bringing the band down around the feet or the ankles. Whatever you want to do, Coco. You're the pro. Yeah. And we're going to be in the side plank position. Coco's switching to the feet. Okay, here we go. And we're up on our side in the side plank position. So you can be in the side plank, Coco. And we're doing reverse clamshells. Good job. Working for 30 seconds. So keep your knees a little bit closer, Coco. So don't let the knees fly apart. There we go. We'll work for 30 seconds. The easier version is going to be down on your side, just like Lindsay is doing. Make sure that you're using your strength to push your top foot away from the bottom foot. Don't use momentum. Make sure you're breathing. Make sure you keep your pelvis nice and stable. All right, next we're going to go to standing clamshells.
Other side.
Oh, other side.
You have 2.
Trying to rush through it. So second side. Harder version is in the side plank position. Easier version is in the side lying position. Make sure that you're breathing. That's one of the cues that we're always trying to focus on when we're doing core and hips. You don't need to count the reps because we're counting the seconds.
10 seconds.
That was 20 seconds. Lindsay's going to start giving you the 20-second count as well once we get into the core. All right, and we're going to bring the band up around our knees and do standing clamshells. We'll have Coco balance herself on the wall. So Coco, you can use the wall once you get your band all pretty. And Lindsay will face the audience. And And we're gonna go for 30 seconds. Making sure that you're not only kicking out to the side, but you're kicking back also. Trying to use those muscles in the back of the hip, really trying to control the knee, so make sure the knee stays over the foot. Don't let the knee dive in towards midline as the other leg flies away from midline. It's really important to maintain the stability of that standing leg. And Lindsay looks at her watch and almost knocks herself off balance.
Good.
And switch, other side, 30 seconds. Making sure you try to pause at the end just a little bit before you come back to midline. Pause a little bit before you come back to midline, good work. I saw Lindsay working on these things over the last week because I shamed her last week. She wanted to impress everybody, so she's actually looking a little bit better.
Is it working?
Amazing what happens when you actually do the exercises you're supposed to. Your stability improves and your strength improves. Nice work being an example, Lindsay, of what consistency does. And that's 30 seconds. Next, we're gonna do standing kickback. So we're gonna bring the band down around our ankles. And one leg is gonna be the anchor, the top leg is kicking out and back. And go when ready. On the clock for 30 seconds. So coming back, pausing at the back for a second before you come back forward. Make sure you keep your chest up nice and high, so don't lean too far forward. Control the pelvis, don't let the pelvis rotate back very far. Try to keep the pelvis forward so the leg comes back. Don't open up the pelvis to get the leg back. And getting close.
Switch.
And switch. And kicking back. 30 seconds. Step nice and tall. Keep your shoulders back a little bit as well. Don't roll your shoulders too far forward.
Done.
And 30 seconds. All right, we're taking the bands off. We're getting into the core. So we're going to go for 30 seconds. Lindsay's going to tell you when it's 20 seconds. She's also going to be showing some modifications. So the first thing we're going to do is the flutter kicks.
And then the modification for these is going to be just heel taps.
All right, so let's do it. You're going normal. 30 seconds and go. A little bit bigger motion, Coco. Good. And Lindsay's doing the modification. She's just tapping the heel down and coming back up. Trying to keep her back flat on the ground. If she wants to put her hands under her back, that's also something that's okay to do. Gives you a little bit more, just kind of a physical cue. So when we're at 20 seconds, Lindsay's going to tell us.
20
seconds, we have 10 more seconds. Coco's still going. She could do these for hours. I think this is how Coco sleeps at night. Do you sleep doing flutter kicks? Yeah.
Good.
And good, we're gonna take a 10-second break. Next one is gonna be the crisscross. And when we're ready, we're good to go. So we're doing a crisscross. Coco's doing the crisscross. This is what we did last week in week 3. Lindsay's just going to rock back and forth. She's keeping her knees at 90 degrees, her hips at 90 degrees, keeping her core strong, making sure that she's breathing, just dropping the knees side to side. We're going to do this for 30 seconds. And Lindsay will tell us when it's 20.
20.
And we have 10 more seconds. Good job. Take a break for 10 seconds. Next one is going to be the fetal crunch. Do you want to give the modification while we rest?
Oh, okay. So modification, your back is nice and flat against the ground, so your core is engaged. Knees start bent, and you're just straightening your knees and tapping. The other version would be you keep your knees bent, and then you're just doing heel taps with both legs.
All right, let's go. 30 seconds. Lindsay will do the modification. Coco's going to do the real one. There we go. Make sure you're breathing. So don't hold your breath as you come up. Make sure you breathe the entire time. That's always important when we're working on core strength. Lindsay's doing the modification. She's just tapping both heels down. If that's a little bit too challenging, she can keep her knees bent and then tap the knees down with her knees bent at 90 degrees.
That's 20.
It's 20 seconds. We're going to go for 10 more seconds. Good work. And we're gonna roll onto our side. We're gonna do the side plank Jane Fondas. We did these last week. We're gonna do these for 30 seconds. Coco's gonna do the normal version, the more advanced version. And Lindsay's gonna show you the modification. And we'll go when we're ready. So Coco's in a big long side plank position. Weights on her elbow and her foot, and she's kicking her top leg up and back. She's gonna do that for 30 seconds. And Lindsay has a bent bottom knee, so that shortens that lever arm, which is gonna shorten the amount of load through her hip and her core. She's doing the same motion though from that side plank position. This is just an easier variation. You can tell that Lindsay keeps her hand on the pelvis to make sure it stays forward. We don't want that to roll back as we do the exercise.
Good. That was 30.
30 seconds, we're gonna switch, take our 10-second rest before we go into the other side. Coco's going right into it. Coco hates breaks.
She's an animal.
Coco's an animal. And making sure that you get that leg nice and high. So kind of match one leg to the other leg. So if you feel like you're weaker in one leg, then try to make your own cues to get the leg a little bit higher, get it back a little bit further. Whatever you feel like you need to do to make the right side feel and look like the left side.
20.
20 seconds, we have 10 more seconds.
Good.
And now we're gonna roll onto our side. We're gonna do hip dips. Lindsay, do you want to give a modification?
Yeah, so you can still be on your knees and then dip in here.
All right, so it's called a short plank. So Coco's gonna be in the full plank, and we're gonna go for 30 seconds. Lindsay, get our time. So Coco's doing what we did in week 3. She's doing the full side plank, hip dip. And Lindsay's in a short plank, so her knees are bent, so the pressure's on her knees and her elbow. And we're gonna go for 30 seconds, making sure that we stay in a nice plane, make sure that we're not folding up like a taco. We gotta stay nice and flat, just like we are when we're running. We don't get to fold up like a taco when we run, so we don't wanna do it while we're doing these side planks. Lindsay's keeping her eye very closely on the clock. She's starting to fatigue. Was that 30 seconds?
Yeah, that was 30.
Did you give them 20 seconds?
You were talking.
Lindsay made you work harder.
It's
All right.
good for you. It's week 4.
And up. Hip dips. Nice and high, nice and low. So try to take a big range of motion. Make sure that you're breathing. Make sure that you stay nice and flat. Make sure you keep your pelvis straight up and down. Lindsay's holding onto the pelvis to make sure it doesn't roll too far forward or too far backwards. This time she might tell you when it's 20 seconds. She might not.
That's 20.
That's 20 seconds, so you have 10 more seconds.
Good.
And we're gonna roll back to the other side. We're gonna do side crunches. You have a modification for us here?
No. You
I
just
think no.
kept these.
No
No
modification.
modification, you're doing them.
So if 30 seconds is too long, you can stop at 20. And let's go, 30 seconds. Making sure you're staying on the lateral side of your pelvis so you're not rolling back. If you roll back, you're gonna make it a crunch. We wanna stay on our side to make it a side crunch. We wanna work on the lateral core. Lindsay's gonna tell us when it's 20 seconds unless she's feeling mean.
20.
20, 10 more seconds. Try to get those knees nice and high in towards your chest. You can come up onto that bottom elbow, almost like that's a little bit of a kickstand, but don't spend a lot of time up there. 30 seconds. Switch. We'll take our 10-second break. Tell us when, Lindsay.
3, 2, 1.
And Coco goes straight into it. She hates breaks.
Coco!
Us mortals need to take breaks.
Yeah.
By us mortals, I mean Lindsay. Coco and I can do this forever. I'm just teaching, so I can't show you that I would do it like Coco forever.
20 seconds. Done.
And now we're going to be in a front plank position, so we'll take our 10 seconds. We're going to go to front plank, knees to elbows. Lindsay's modification is going to be?
Modification is being in a high plank. You're still doing knees to elbows, but it's a little bit less range, so it's not here. It's here.
And we'll go for 30 seconds. Lindsay, you got the clock?
Yeah.
So Coco's on her elbows. which means she has to bring her knees out to the side a little bit. Lindsay's up nice and high, so she's gonna bring the knees out to the side, but she can maintain kind of a more linear path, which will be a little bit easier.
Seconds.
There you go, 10 more seconds. Again, think about that hot cup of coffee right on your sacrum. Make sure that you're keeping that nice and stable. Make sure you're breathing.
Done.
And we're gonna take a 10-second break. Next one is gonna be kickbacks. We're gonna be in that same plank position. Now we're just gonna be kicking the legs back up into the air. We did this one last week. We're gonna work for 30 seconds. Lindsay, do you have a modification here?
Yeah, so the modification would be hands and knees. You're still kicking back, thinking about balancing that cup of coffee on your sacrum.
All right, let's go. 30 seconds on the clock. Coco's in the full plank, doing the kickbacks. Thinking about keeping her pelvis stable, just like Lindsay said, that hot cup of coffee right on the pelvis. Lindsay's gonna be in the quadruped position, doing these kickbacks. And she'll tell us when we're at 20 seconds.
That is 20 right there.
That's 20. 10 more seconds, and you can always toggle back and forth. You can start in the long plank, and then you can end up in the quadruped position for the last half of the 30 seconds. Whatever you feel like your body is ready for.
And done.
Done. We'll take a 10-second break. We only have 3 more exercises. The next one is going to be the shoulder taps, where we're going to be on that same plank position, toes and elbows, doing shoulder taps. And Lindsay.
Modified plank is you're going to be in a short plank position, so you're on your knees, still doing the shoulder taps.
All right, so short plank, long plank. Let's do it. 30 seconds. And try not to rock your pelvis, Coco.
Yeah, Coco.
Lindsay's gonna take advantage of Coco doing one not perfect. It's good for Lindsay's ego. We'll let her get away
Hips,
with it.
Coco, hips.
We'll let her get away with it.
That's 20.
20 seconds, 10 more seconds.
3, 2, 1.
And we're gonna roll onto our back. 2 more exercises, and then we are done with core and hips for today. The second and last one is going to be the split crunch, and you have the modification for this.
Yep, so modifying it. Hands are going to come up, knees are going to come up. We're doing a dead bug. So opposite arm, opposite leg drop, and you're keeping your back nice and round. Don't let your ribs flare. Your back's nice and pressed into the ground. So it's this.
All right, here we go. 30 seconds. You're on the clock. Coco's going to go into it. Coco's moving a little bit faster. She's done this quite a bit, so she can increase the speed. That's one thing that we said that we can do to increase the challenge of an exercise is increase the speed. I know that she does it well. I know that she's breathing, so I let her do it a little bit quicker. Coco doesn't like to be slow. If you know anything about running, you know that Coco does not like to be slow at anything. A lot of times I'm trying to slow her down with strength and conditioning work, but every once in a while I let her go as fast as she wants, as long as her technique is good.
20 seconds.
Look how happy she is. It makes her real happy. And we're coming close to 30.
3, 2, 1.
And take a 10-second break. Last one is going to be bicycles. And there's no modification for this one, so if you feel like 30 seconds is too long, you're going to stop at 20.
Yeah.
And we're going to go. 30 seconds, the race is on. Lindsay's going fast here too. There's no winner. Everybody's going the same amount of work. There's no winner. Make sure you're breathing. Extend the legs a little bit more, Coco, as you come out. The long legs take a lot of space to move.
20 seconds.
10 more seconds and then we're done.
And done.
Good work.
Ah.
So we're going into our functional balance kind of foundational series. We're going to touch on a couple of things that we've already worked on. We're going to bring a couple of things back that we've worked on. We're going to increase the speed in some of these exercises just to increase the challenge. So you need to have a hand weight of some sort if you want. If you don't have a hand weight, that's fine. You can use just like a water bottle full of water or a can of soup even. That's totally fine. Lindsay has a kettlebell.
Yeah.
You can use a dumbbell. Really anything that has a little bit of weight. First thing we're going to do is a lateral runner lunge. So this is something that we did in week 2, I believe. But now we're going to come up to the running position and press over our head. And the lateral lunge, balance in that running position, press over our head. So we're gonna add another element to this to make it even more complicated. So after we press up, then we're gonna hinge forward and do a toe touch. So we're adding complexity because we're adding some elements to the exercise. So we're gonna lunge out to the side, touch, come up, try to balance in the running position. Press overhead, reach down, touch the toe, come back up to our starting position. Lateral lunge, touch, come up to the running position. That's gonna be hard to find that balance. Press, then doing a toe touch. We're gonna do 2 sets of 6 of these on each side. We'll say that Lindsay's already done 2. She's done more, but you've probably only done 2.
6.
And we only care about you and not her. So she has to do 3
4
more
more.
on this side. 4 more on this
4
side.
more.
4 more. Just so that you guys can keep the same tempo. So we're gonna do 2 sets of 6 on each side. If you wanna take a break at some point in between the right and the left side or in between our sets, then you can always hit pause. Lindsay's gonna roll right through it to really impress us as she's been working on these things over the course of the last week. And what number is that?
This is the last one.
That was 6. Okay, so she's gonna switch hands. She's gonna reach out to the side. Come up. Oh, that right leg. So she's pressing and then hinging down and then coming back up. Good. So when she comes up to that running position, she's trying to hit that balance, keeping the knee high for the hot cup of coffee. She's not leaning back. She's trying to keep her chest up and forward. That's gonna keep the pressure in her forefoot. She's gonna do a legitimate 6 on this side and not 8 or 10 like we made her do on the other side. And this one's pretty complicated, so if it takes you a while to kind of figure out all of the moving elements of the exercise, then hit pause once you figure it out, do your set of 6 on each side or 2 sets of 6 on each side, and then come back, hit play, and then we'll just keep rolling through. So this is her starting position. She's gonna reach out. Oh, that was 6, okay, good. So she has 2 sets though. So here we go, straight into it. Lateral reach, come up. That's going to be hard to stick that balance. Press, hinge forward, keeping the knee relatively straight. So we're making sure that this is more of a hip hinge than it is a single leg squat. So we're hinging through the hip when we're bringing the weight down to our toe. Coming up, pressing your water bottle or your can of soup. Make sure that you're breathing. Make sure that you stick that running position for a second. So try to stick it, really check in before you go on to the next element. It's always important that we become really familiar and confident and comfortable and competent in that running position. So whenever we hit that running position, I like to stick it for a second or 2, really check in with the posture before we go on to the next element. So here we go, the right side. Ooh, starting strong. So that's 1, nice. One thing that she did there that I really liked was when she came up to a running position, the contralateral side of her pelvis drove up toward the sky, which is going to help her engage the glute on that standing leg. So this is coming up really high, which is going to make that glute work a little bit harder on the standing leg, and it might improve your stability. Good, and she's getting nice and long through that right leg today, which is good. So getting long, taking up as much vertical space as she can. She's breathing, she's not leaning back. The glute is nice and strong on that right leg, nice and active. What number is this?
Got 1 more.
1 more after this. Ooh, looking pretty good. Oh, and I knocked her off balance with my compliment. Good work. All right. So we'll take a little bit of a break. We're going to go into our next one. We're going to use our weight, maybe the same weight that you just used. So this is one that we worked on last week, but we're going to add some speed to it. And we're going to be very specific with where we add the speed. So this is going to be the runner snatch. It was a runner touch with an overhead press. So show them the runner touch with the overhead press. So we were doing a touch, then she was coming up, and then she was pressing up over her head. So the variation that we're going to do today is a snatch, which means we're going to start to add a little bit of velocity from the touch position. She's going to come straight up with some speed overhead. So we're not moving as slow, but we still want to be very intentional with bringing that weight straight up over her head, sticking that position, and then she's going to do the reverse lunge, slow and controlled, but then she's going to come up with some speed and snap that knee forward, okay? So that's what we're doing. We're going to do 2 sets of 6 on each side. So Lindsay's going to hinge forward, The second set, we're gonna add another layer of complexity, but for now we're just gonna do the runner snatch, so we're touching our toe, make sure we're balanced here, come up nice and strong, nice and quick, hit that running position, keep the weight over the head, reverse lunge, snap up. So when we're coming up, we're using speed. When we're going down, we're using control. So we're coming down here, we're using control. When we come up, we're gonna add speed, try to stick that position. Coming down with control, coming up with speed, nail that position. Reverse lunge, come back up, very good. So we're doing a set of 6 here on this side. I'm not counting, that's at least 2. What number is that?
Yeah, one more.
One more. Hinging forward. Make sure you're controlled at the bottom before you snatch up. If you're not very controlled and stable at the bottom and you try to initiate that upward motion, you've already failed. You're gonna fall, you're gonna be off balance. So make sure that as you come down, you're coming down slow and controlled. Make sure you're balanced here. Once you feel balanced, then you're gonna come up with a little bit of speed. Get that weight nice and high. Keep the weight over your shoulder. Reverse lunge, come up with a little bit of speed. So again, control on the way down, speed on the way up. Balance. Control on the way down, speed on the way up, and balance. So Lindsay's doing a really good job checking in with that running position, both here, and then when she comes up from the reverse lunge, holding it for a second, knees nice and high, standing leg is nice and straight. Her spine is just a little bit forward, so she's not leaning back. Nice. We'll do the second set facing the other way. And we're gonna add the row at the bottom of the second set.
Yeah.
What number is that?
Last one.
One more.
6.
Coming up nice and tall. Reverse lunge, slow and controlled. Coming up, bang! Coming out of a cannon. Cool. So this next round of 6, we're gonna add a row. So we're gonna come down into that single leg RDL, or that single leg touch position. We're gonna add a row, and then we're gonna come up, bang, nice and fast. Reverse lunge, controlled, come up, nice and fast. You want a set of 6 of these, hinging forward, staying balanced, do the row. Come up with some speed, balance, reverse lunge, and up. Good job. And just notice that as she comes up, she has really nice posture through her upper body. She's not leaning back too far like this. So she's up nice and tall. She should feel the weight in her forefoot. Go ahead. Making you work
Making it
harder.
harder on me.
Make sure you're breathing. This is a really challenging exercise. Lindsay's doing a really good job. She's being a great model today. Most people who don't have any experience doing some of these really complicated single leg running exercises in this, what we call the balanced kind of functional quadrant of our program, they're gonna find this really, really hard. They're gonna feel like their foot's cramping up, that their calf is fatiguing. It's gonna be hard for them to find a position, but you'll get to a point that you can come up into a running position, everything stacks up and aligns nicely, and it's gonna feel really, really good. So this just takes practice, it takes repetition, and eventually you'll get it. Nice. When we row, we'll make a correction. She's actually doing pretty well, but I'll give you something that is important. So make sure that when you row, you're opening up the front of your chest, bringing the shoulder blade back towards your spine, and you're not keeping your shoulder forward. So we want to open up the chest as we bring the elbow toward the ceiling. We're going to do a set of 6 of these on the right side, and then we'll move on to the last exercise. Nice and tall. She's getting a little bit fatigued on this right side. It's looking better than the last 3 weeks. So there's a little progress. Good work. Is this number 6 here?
Yeah.
Last one. Nice and tall. Reverse lunge, snap up, knees nice and high. Perfect. Awesome. One more exercise. We're going to go back to the hot salsa. And we're going to add some rotations both in the lunge position and in the up running position, which is going to be pretty challenging. We're going to do 1 set of 10, 5 on each side, alternating. So we're going to hold on to our weight. She's going to lunge. Weight comes up over her head. She's going to rotate over the front leg. So she's going to rotate to the right, drop the weight, and then bring the weight out in front of her to do the hot salsa. Come up, weight comes back over her head. Then she's going to rotate over that front leg and drop again. That's going to be really challenging. And then she's going to switch legs. So that's 1. So now the left leg is forward. She's going to reach up, rotate to the left, drop the weight down, stay nice and long and strong through her torso. And she's going to come up to that running position. She's going to rotate and drop the weight over that front leg. That's going to be really challenging. having a single leg balance and dropping the weight across your body is going to be really hard for your core, for your glutes, for your foot, for your balance, for your ego. Make sure that you're breathing. You can do this one kind of slow. We're not adding speed to this one yet. We want this to be really slow and controlled because it's very complicated, kind of neuromuscularly. So she's rotating, she's dropping, she's breathing. She's coming up to the running position. She's checking in. She's going to rotate and drop. Good work. Alternating back and forth. Turn and drop. Reach. Come up to the running position. Turn and drop. Good job. Lindsay's sweating.
I'm saying.
She's breathing heavy. But she's doing pretty well today. Week 4.
Week 4.
That's when Lindsay comes alive, week 4.
Yep.
What number is that?
6.
6. 3 more. 4 more.
4 more. Who needs
Lindsay's
numbers?
Lindsay's body's moving well,
Who
but her
needs
brain
numbers?
is starting to short circuit on us. And if 10 is too many for you, you can do 8, you can do 6. Just like all these exercises and just like we've done the first 3 weeks, kind of get a sense of where your body's at, what your body's ready for. Challenge yourself, don't strain, don't push beyond what feels reasonable. And Lindsay's doing this barefoot, which is totally fine. If you feel like you're getting really good and balanced in your shoes, take the shoes away and rely just on the kind of the inherent strength and support systems of the foot. What number is this?
Last one. 10.
Make sure that you're breathing through the entire motion. Don't hold your breath as you're bringing the weight up. And awesome. Finishing pose. Give us a finishing pose. Okay, now we're going to go into the strength section. So we're going to stay with that Tabata squat methodology. We're going to be working for 20 seconds, resting for 10 seconds. We're going to add lunges today. So we're going to get in the lunge position. Let me kind of talk you through this first, and then we'll start as a team. So we're going to be in a lunge position. We're going to do lunges for 20 seconds, as many as we can, maintaining good form. But as long as your form is good, you can go as quickly as you can. But don't go so fast that your form deteriorates. We want full range of motion all the way up and all the way down. So we're going to do 20 seconds of that. Then we're going to do a 10-second break. We're going to switch sides, do 20 seconds on the other side, 10-second break. Come back around to the other side, 20 seconds. Other side, 20 seconds. So 2 rounds each leg. And then we're going to go into Tabata squats. So we have our box here for Lindsay, so she can go all the way down and all the way up. We're going to do 20 seconds on one set. And then if you feel good with that, then stop. Lindsay's going to do 2 sets. If you want to do 3 sets, do 3 sets. So make sure that you feel challenged. This is going to get your heart rate up. This is going to feel pretty challenging. It's going to get your legs burning. So challenge yourself. Don't strain anything. So get ready. Let's get into a lunge position. Lindsay's going to keep track of our time. We're going to go 20 seconds with a 10-second break. And when Lindsay starts, you
2,
start.
1.
There we go. All the way down, all the way up. Make sure that you're breathing. As I said, if your form is good, you can go as quickly as you feel comfortable going. You're trying to get as many reps as you can in 20 seconds without compromising your form or your technique. What time are we at?
3, 2, 1.
10-second break. And after the 10 seconds,
2, 1,
let's
go.
just go into it. So we're going to do these single leg lunges. And in 20 seconds, you're going to be able to get about 20 repetitions. That's quite a bit. If you need to go slower, go slower. If you need to stop before 20 seconds, then stop before 20 seconds. That's totally reasonable.
Done.
Good. Another 10-second break, and we're going straight back to the right leg. We're going to do another set on each side for 20 seconds.
3, 2, 1, go.
Here we go. 20 seconds. Try to keep your pelvis nice and level, so don't let this other side of your pelvis, so in her case, don't let the left side of the pelvis drop down. So try to keep that nice and level. If you can do this in front of a mirror, that'd be really good, so you can make sure that you maintain nice alignment of your pelvis. Keep your chest up, so don't have your chest folded down on your knee. Set of 20 seconds, 10-second break. Make sure that you're breathing.
3, 2, 1.
And we're going for 20 seconds. Make sure that knee stays right over the foot, so don't let the knee dive in towards midline. That's bad. So we want to keep everything in a nice sagittal plane, a nice alignment.
5 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
And we're taking a 10-second break. We're going to go straight into the Tabata squats. So Lindsay has her box already set up. She's going to do 20 seconds of squats, 10 seconds off. We're doing 2 rounds of these. If you want to stop where you are, go for it. If you want to do 1 round of Tabata squats, go for it. If you want to do 2 like Lindsay, go for it. If you feel stronger than Lindsay, then you can do a 3rd set. And write in and let us know that you actually did 3 sets so Lindsay feels good.
I want an email and I want video proof.
So she's coming all the way down, she's coming all the way up.
Good.
20 seconds, 10-second break. She has 1 more round at 20. You at home might have a 3rd round and then send her the video proof that you did it.
And go.
She's coming all the way up. She's breathing. Her knees are staying out over her feet, so her knees aren't coming in towards midline. We don't want those knees to collapse in. And she's working. She's got a couple more in her.
Done.
Good work. All right, and this is our last strength element for week 4. This is called a lunge to wall drive. So let us walk you through it first, and then we'll all start together. We're going to do 2 sets of 5 on each side. So we're going to start in a lunge position, and then Lindsay's going to explode up into the wall with a little bit of speed, and her knee's going to be nice and high. We want this leg to be in a little bit of extension. So she needs to be far enough away from the wall so bring your foot a little bit closer to show them. So we don't necessarily want her to be so close to the wall that her leg ends up right underneath her body. We want this leg in extension, just like it would be for you as a runner, in the backside of your mechanics. So that's a good strong position. Her heel's going to be up in the air. She's going to feel effort through the calf, probably the hamstring and the quad, and definitely the glute. And her body's going to be kind of upright, just like it would be when she's running. So we don't want her to be like pressed into the wall. So we don't want her to be there. So that's her good strong end position. So we're going to do a set of 5 on one side, and then we're going to switch to a set of 5 on the other side, and we're going to do 2 sets of 5 on each side. So here we go. 1, pause for a second, so we're coming nice and quick up into the wall. Come down with a little bit of control, slow and controlled. 2, good. And 3, get nice and long, get nice and tall. 4, awesome. And 5, and we're going to switch. And coming up nice and strong, making sure that leg is in extension. So be far enough away from the wall that we have the leg into extension. The front knee is coming into the wall. Don't bang the wall with your knee. That could be bad. Nice and tall. You can see that her spine is flexed forward just a little bit. It's leaned forward just a little bit. It's not really far forward. She's definitely not leaning back. We want this end position. So are we going to the next leg?
Yeah.
So switch to the other leg. Do another set of 5 each side. So we want this end position to look like absolutely perfect sprinting mechanics in the back side of your mechanics. So driving up, don't hold your breath as you come from the squat or from the lunge up into the wall drive. Make sure that you're breathing out as you come up. Keep that knee nice and high. Get that heel up off the ground so we have some good strength in the calf. Make sure that when you are up in that running position that glute is engaged in the standing leg. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge.
Switch.
Switch. We have 1 more set of 5 on the other side. Then it's time to take a nap. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last one before nap time. 5. Good work, gang.